No one in the room expected Jamie Dornan to detonate a bombshell that would ricochet across 2 decades of his private life. The interview had started innocently. Questions about his latest film, his evolution as an actor, and the usual friendly banter. But then Jamie paused, looked down at his hands, and exhaled a breath that seemed to carry the weight of 20 years. When he lifted his gaze again, something in his expression had changed. A seriousness, a resolve, almost a confession pressing against his ribs. And then he said the words that froze the entire studio. "It's time I told the truth about the people I've loved over the last 20 years." The room didn't just fall silent, it stilled. Cameras stopped moving. The host leaned forward, stunned. This was Jamie Dornan, one of Hollywood's most private, disciplined, emotionally guarded stars. The man who dodged dating questions with the agility of an Olympic athlete. The man who let rumors die on their own rather than feed them with attention. And now he was voluntarily opening the vault, his vault, one that fans, tabloids, and insiders had been trying to pry apart for 2 decades. Jamie continued speaking, his voice low but steady, as if he had rehearsed this in his head 1,000 times. He said the pressure of fame, the endless speculation, and the constant rewriting of his personal history had made him realize he could no longer carry the burden of silence. "People have created their own stories about me for years," he said. "Some of them are laughable. Some of them, cut deeper than anyone knows." Behind that simple statement lay the ache of a man who had watched strangers narrate his emotional life while he stood powerless on the sidelines. He began by describing his earliest relationships, back in his modeling days, when he was too young to understand how quickly affection could turn into headlines. He spoke about a woman who had been with him before anyone knew his name. "She believed in me when I had nothing," he admitted. "She saw something in me I didn't see yet." His voice softened with a nostalgia that caught listeners off guard. The host, sensing the shift, didn't interrupt. The audience held their breath. Then Jamie revealed something even more surprising. Some rumored relationships had been real. Not all of them, he clarified with a wry smile, but a few were more than just whispers. He described a brief but intense romance with a fellow actor, someone the public had always speculated about but never confirmed. Their connection had been electric but ultimately impossible under the spotlight, crushed by public expectations neither of them were ready for. "We cared deeply," he said, "but we didn't know how to survive the noise around us." As Jamie spoke, the timeline of his dating life began to take shape, not as tabloid scandal, but as the story of a man navigating love under impossible scrutiny. He mentioned sacrifices he had made for relationships that never saw daylight. Moments where he walked away because he feared hurting the other person. Moments where he wished he had been braver, louder, more willing to fight against Hollywood's narrative machine. "I wasn't always the hero in my story," he admitted. "Sometimes I made the wrong choices. Sometimes I stayed quiet when I should have spoken." But the emotional core of his confession came when he hinted at a relationship that had changed the trajectory of his life. One he described as profound, painful, and unforgettable. He didn't name her. He didn't offer details, but his eyes carried the weight of something unresolved, something that still echoed in him after all this time. "There were people I loved deeply who never got the chance to be acknowledged," he said. "Not because they weren't important, but because I thought I was protecting them." The audience shifted, sensing the gravity of the moment. Jamie's voice trembled slightly as he revealed the darker side of secrecy. The loneliness, the misunderstandings, the heartbreak of watching relationships dissolve because they couldn't survive in shadows. "It wasn't fair," he admitted. "To them, or to me." For the first time, Jamie Dornan wasn't the polished actor or the charismatic star. He was a man reckoning with the ghosts of his past. And then he delivered the line that shattered the internet the moment it aired. "Some of the people I loved will recognize themselves in what I'm saying today, and I hope they know I'm sorry." It was an apology, a confession, and a revelation all at once. A doorway into stories the world never knew existed. The host stared at him, speechless. The audience murmured. Social media exploded. And yet Jamie wasn't finished. He leaned back in his chair, eyes steady, and ended the segment with a final, chilling promise. "There are names I still won't say, but their impact on my life is undeniable." The world was left reeling. Fans scrambled to piece together clues. Insiders whispered about old flames. Hollywood braced for the fallout. Because if this was only the beginning, what secrets would Jamie reveal next? The shockwaves from Jamie Dornan's confession had barely begun to settle when the internet erupted into a full-scale investigation. Fans created timelines, compared old interviews, dug through red carpet photos, resurrected forgotten rumors. Hollywood insiders whispered that Jamie's revelation was only the tip of the iceberg, the first crack in a vault full of stories he had kept locked for 20 years. And now, with his words echoing across headlines worldwide, people wanted answers. Who were the secret lovers he was talking about? But before the world could speculate too wildly, something unexpected happened. One of the unnamed women responded. It began subtly. A cryptic post on Instagram from an actress Jamie had once been heavily rumored to date. It wasn't dramatic, no names, no accusations, but the timing was unmistakable. A simple caption under a black and white photo. Some stories never fade. The comment section exploded within minutes. Fans begged her to confirm or deny the connection. She didn't have to. The implication was enough to send Hollywood spiraling. Other whispers followed. A former model Jamie had been linked to during his early 20s reportedly told a friend she felt strange but relieved hearing his apology. Another source claimed an artist Jamie briefly dated had been shocked, but grateful that he acknowledged how their relationship had shaped him. None of these women went public directly, but the message was clear. Jamie's confession had stirred memories, not all painful, but all real. For the first time, their stories had space to exist, even if unnamed. But the reaction that truly set the internet ablaze came from someone few expected. A highly respected actress, never confirmed as Jamie's partner but long rumored to have shared a deep connection with him, posted a short statement through her publicist. It read, "Some relationships are not meant to be seen, only felt. I wish him peace." The elegance, the ambiguity, the emotional weight. Fans lost their minds. Was she confirming an intimate past? Was she implying heartbreak? Was this the woman Jamie had described as profound, painful, unforgettable? Analysts dissected every word like a puzzle piece. Meanwhile, Hollywood professionals scrambled to understand the ripple effects of Jamie's revelation. Directors who had worked with him in the early 2000s recalled moments when he seemed distracted or emotionally distant. Co-stars remembered him slipping away during rap parties, disappearing behind a facade of stoic charm. Some began to see patterns in his career choices, roles he accepted or rejected during years when certain relationships flourished or fell apart. "He always carried something," one producer said. "We just didn't know what." But the most intense speculation centered around one question. Had any of these secret relationships interfered with his long-term partnerships? Jamie hadn't implied wrongdoing. He hadn't hinted at infidelity. But he had admitted to emotional bonds the public never knew existed, and that alone was enough to ignite a fierce cultural debate. Commentators argued whether Jamie's secrecy had been protective or selfish, whether his actions toward past lovers had been noble or harmful, whether his honesty now was redemption or reopening old wounds. Through all this, Jamie remained quiet. He didn't issue follow-up statements. He didn't clarify who he had been referencing. He simply let the world talk, interpret, and unravel the threads he had finally let loose. That silence, intentional or not, only fueled the drama further. Then, just when the conversation reached its boiling point, another development rocked Hollywood. A source close to Jamie and Amelia Warner revealed that Amelia had been fully aware of at least one of the relationships Jamie had referenced. The internet exploded. Did this mean they had openly discussed his past? Did it mean one of his secret loves had nearly threatened their relationship? Did it mean Amelia was the unnamed ghost haunting his story? The source clarified. Amelia wasn't shocked by Jamie's past. What shocked her was his decision to reveal it publicly. Privately, Amelia reportedly felt torn. Not angry, not betrayed, but shaken by the vulnerability of it all. She had known Jamie's past was complicated. She had lived through the aftermath of some of those stories. What she didn't expect was for Jamie to expose so much emotional truth to the world. Truth she believed he had long made peace with. According to insiders, she told a friend, "It feels like he's digging up the pieces of a man I never met." The heart of the drama reached its peak when Jamie and Amelia were spotted leaving a restaurant together the night after the interview. They didn't hold hands. They didn't smile, but they walked side by side, close, quiet, contemplative. Paparazzi captured a moment where Jamie looked at her with something between gratitude and sorrow, while Amelia's expression held the calm strength she was known for. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't conflict. It was something more complicated. Acceptance of the truth Jamie had finally spoken. Before getting into their car, Jamie murmured something to Amelia, something the cameras didn't catch, prompting her to nod softly. Fans are still debating what that nod meant. Support? Forgiveness? A promise? No one knows. But one thing became crystal clear. Jamie Dornan's 20-year dating bombshell hadn't just exposed old lovers. It had exposed the emotional architecture of a man the world thought they already knew. And with his final words, "There are names I still won't say," Hollywood now wonders whether the most explosive truth is the one he hasn't revealed yet.